Welcome to this edition of the Project Show. We have a great interview of the week lined up for you. We have in studio with us today is Malcolm Harkins, the Chief Information Security Officer for Cylance Security. Cybersecurity is his business, and understanding some of the constraints, complexities, and dependencies and the threats that exist to your customers and the solutions around those is crucial to your project success. As a practitioner, this is very important and timely information for you. We hope you enjoy this interview with Malcolm Harkins.
Now, there's a variety of reasons why I left Intel and why I joined Cylance. But the core, probably the easiest way for me to start to explain it, I think people have two choices in the world. They can accept things as they are or accept responsibility to change them. I am frustrated with the world of security and privacy and where it's at. I'm frustrated about it because for 14 years, I managed it operationally in the infrastructure I was responsible for and the products and services and security and privacy. But I wasn't seeing enough change. And a perfect storm of risk that I had characterized and I drew 14 years ago that I thought might come true if the wrong things happened has brewed into a perfect storm of risk. You can't open up a web page, open up a news article, turn on the news, do something without seeing some cyber-related risk issue. And we've already crossed a precipice where technology is becoming inextricably linked with society's well-being. And if we perpetuate the risk issues we're seeing today that is untenable for all of us out 5, 10, 15 years from now, we're going to be in a dire state of consequence for society. And so I couldn't sit by and let that happen. And along the way, I've known Stu McClure, our CEO and founder. He asked me to come run security for him. And when he did, it was self-evident to me I needed to do that. And going to a smaller company in a smaller role with one core product, I can actually have a bigger impact on the world. And I can do that for a couple things, and this gets back to why I left. Again, two choices. I'm a simple guy. I like to summarize things in easier things. When you're choosing a role, a company, whatever you're doing for life, you've got, again, two primary choices. You're either running away from something or you're running towards something. And I've been lucky enough to always run towards something. I did for almost 24 years at Intel, tripping my way into security in a variety of roles because I didn't plan to be a security officer. It just happened. And when Stu asked me that, there was a sense of curiosity, purpose, passion. And when I started playing with the product and seeing what they were doing, it made it obvious to me because most of the security industry is profiting from the insecurity of computing. They have no economic incentive to fundamentally address the issue. And what we're trying to do is prevent the issues at the beginning, prevent the risk cycle, prevent the security harm, prevent the privacy harm prior to the execution of malicious code and malware. And if we do a good job of that, which we are for our customers, then we'll make money. And then I've had a bunch of other folks, again, going big company, small company. I'm late 40s. People think you're going through a midlife crisis, all that stuff, right? And you go change and transition, and everybody's worried that I'm going to go through the speed bump going from the big role of vice president in a massive company at the heart of computing to a small company with one main product. And again, if you run towards something, there's a sense of purpose. But the things that I always tried to do with the organizations I led, the people I worked with, were the things that I tried to find to kind of get you at that career best and really kind of push you forward into that change agent, is you got to find a spot where you believe you belong and you matter. And when I look at it and I go, I believe in what Stu McClure has created with Cylance. I believe in what our product is capable of doing. I believe in my peers and what they're doing. I feel like I belong there. I don't know why, I just do. Partly because people frankly give a shit about me and what we're doing. And at the end of the day, you've got to find a spot where the work you do, the work the company does, matters. And if you're running towards something and you find a spot where you believe you belong and you matter, it's all good. In terms of anti-patterns in the security sector, again, I think there's a lot of interesting churn that happens in the security marketplace. And some of that, it kind of relates back to what's going on in the security industry. Many security folks in the industry, in the media, and heck, even in enterprises, they sell on fear. They drive a fear cycle. That creates a distortion effect sometimes for the risk. You have perhaps a board member or a senior manager who gets a hold of that news effect, and then all of a sudden issues a dictate, we've got to go deal with this. It might not actually be the enterprise risk issue. And in fact, I just got done with a dialogue with a peer in a company. And the discussion we had was a board member had read an article that drove them to get a directive to go deploy a control for data loss prevention in their company. The data was several years old. The individual knows it's not the right control to mitigate the issue that is the primary concern today. But they're afraid to go tell them that they're wrong. They're afraid to go have an objective discussion. I had a view a number of years ago that I came across that I thought about, and I asked myself the question, what's the most significant vulnerability we face today and in the future? And I came to the conclusion it was the misperception of risk. And the misperception of risk is driven by two factors, economics and psychology. On the economic side of it, you got classical economic theory of moral hazard. You know, am I responsible? Is it going to hurt me? Is it going to impact somebody else? The insurance dilemma. You rent a car, it's not my problem. If I wreck it, it's the rental car's problem. So in some cases, you have a moral hazard issue with companies and individuals where they're going to act on their own best interest, which might actually then cause a consequence and impact to others. Sometimes the security team knows the details, but they don't know how to communicate it to the executive office. Sometimes the executive office understands contextually the enterprise risk issues. Are they trying to repatriate cash from Europe? Is there an FDA approval for a product if you're in the healthcare industry that you're waiting on? And that's the thing that's keeping you awake at night. But contextually, maybe your security guide doesn't know that. And that asymmetry of information can sometimes create some anti-patterns of direction within an organization. And then on the psychological side of it, again, that fear factor. And I think of selling on fear, either in an organization to get movement, to get budget, or selling on fear as a security solutions provider. Fear's like junk food. It might give you temporary sustenance. It's long-term not good for your health. But the other psychological issue is the fact that when people get enamored with technology or get enamored with something they think is cool and the shiny bauble syndrome, psychologically they start discounting the risk issues of it. So again, you have some optical issues that start causing a balance on the perception of benefit and the reality of risk. And so you add all those things together and yeah, you have a lot of anti-patterns that emerge. And again, a lot of people in the industry are taking advantage of that and using it to sell solutions that frankly don't work.
The Project Show will return.
Experts claim the problems began when risk factors were not accounted for.
Construction has stopped while finger-pointing continues.
Tensions are building over who should pay for cost overruns.
Failure is imminent.
Project Chaos.
Taxpayers will be on the hook for what many economists are calling a dismal failure in project oversight.
Missed deadlines.
The IT giant project has gone so bad, many employees fear for their jobs.
Integration and resource issues.
IT project failure is reported to cost the U.S. economy as much as $150 billion annually.
The effects of bad project management are being felt in organizations around the globe and threatens the very existence of some corporations. In spite of current project management tools, processes, and practices, many project overruns double, while some fail altogether. Avoid the causes of project chaos. Contact the leader in project resourcing today. World PMO. Efficiency redefined.
You're watching The Project Show, and we hope you're enjoying today's topic as we continue the interview with the Chief Information Security Officer for Cylance Security, Malcolm Harkins.
You know, on the legal and regulatory side of it and the service development angle on it, and heck, the security and privacy angle on it, the evolution of technology, again, getting back to that perfect storm of risk, that's something that started brewing in the legal and regulatory space over a dozen years ago. I mean, you've had Sarbanes-Oxley, you've had GLBA, you've had the California breach bill, and now you've got what almost every state has their own breach notification laws. You've got CISA that was just passed by the House. You've got executive orders, and that's just in the US. You've got things if you're in the oil and gas industry, and I know this when I was at Intel, our silicon factories were essentially small silicon or chemical plants. And so we had to comply with CFATS, the Chemical Facility Anti-Terrorism Security Act. You've got HIPAA. You've got payment card industry standards, industry self-regulation that's occurring. And that's, again, just in the US, and I've barely even scratched the surface. And then you go, if you're a multinational, and you look at what's happening in Europe and the removal of safe harbor, and the potential fines upwards of a couple % of worldwide revenue if you don't meet the data protection requirements of Europe. You've got China, who just passed an anti-terrorism law that is going to start requiring technology companies to potentially put backdoors in place. You have the physical events of San Bernardino, France, that again, you have law enforcement in multiple nations saying we need backdoors into technology. So you have this confluence of vulnerability, risk, physical stuff, and regulatory requirements as everybody's trying to set standards and manage to the optics for the industry they're in. And in many cases they conflict, or in many cases they might solve the problem. So you go, how the hell do you navigate that? It's hard. And the legal and regulatory stuff, it can be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, getting a compliance requirement that says if I do these things, I've done it right, it makes it easy, but it also creates a burden on the company in some extent and removes the ability to make a business risk decision. On the other hand, the regulatory environment in some cases can cause more harm than good. If you start regulating technology and start getting to a spot where you say the technology has to have this piece in it, you might stifle innovation. Because now the compliance is driving you to stay static and still with technology versus innovate and ideate and do good things. So I think we have to be very conscious about how, as companies, we push and pull on the legal and regulatory things, and we have to have a voice on that. And I think many people are doing it right, but I would hope that the regulators in the world think about the consequence and impact of the regulations. And are they going to achieve what the desired result is? And then as companies that have to deal with it, we have to take a thoughtful approach to it and also not overweight on compliance, because compliance doesn't drive commitment. And I'd rather have a committed organization than a compliant organization, because that will achieve my business objective. So, you know, one of the things that when you think about, again, what's going on in the world with the evolution of technology, the evolution of the risk issues, the challenges, the compliance, the legal and regulatory environment, I had a notion a few years ago that there was, in essence, a security poverty line that exists, much like a societal poverty line. And I think you could even say there's a technology poverty line that could exist as well. And that poverty line, depending upon where you look at it, and again, I've been lucky enough to grow up in technology companies that had a bench strength of depth and breadth of acumen, but not all companies have that. And almost every company is becoming a technology company. They're creating a website, they're developing an app, heck, cement companies are embedding sensors in cement to sell big data and analytics back to municipalities to improve their ability to understand when roads need to be maintained better. So you've got all those things creating this froth that, again, creates a challenge and a skill deficit in some cases. And again, I'll bring it back to security, but that poverty line, you look at it and you go, what drives it? It could be economics. I don't have the budget. I don't have the money to go get the right skills and resources. But I still need to do it, and I need a way to essentially punch above my weight limit and still transition and change and transform. And I think the only way you can do that is you can grow the talent, which takes time, or you have to augment the talent, which means you need to go get professionals that can help you at the time you need it, when you need it, at the cost you need it to deliver your business result. And there's a lot of staff augmentation, professional services. We have a professional services arm to help people when they don't have that skill. That's a part of that poverty line. The other part of the poverty line, frankly, from a security perspective, is the fact that we're all getting drowned with alerts, alert fatigue. Why? Because the endpoint products that they've got in enterprises today don't work. And so they're drowning, and then we can't claim that there's a resource shortage in the security industry. Why? Because we're continuing to detect and respond and do damage control rather than get at the heart of the issue, which is designing and developing and implementing products that have less vulnerabilities, first and foremost. And then second, getting something in there that stops the risk cycle and prevents malware prior to execution. If you do those two things, most of the security shortage of labor goes away. Now, you're always still going to need detection and response. You're still going to need different skill sets. But again, you can grow that, you can groom that, you can use staff augmentation, and you can use that to solve those problems. And again, keep you on your path for your business objective.
The Project Show will return. Noise, complexity, confusion, project chaos. One of the secrets of controlling project chaos lies within the most important resource of all, people. Remove the human factor, and all that remains are processes, schedules, and budgets. It is people that implement best practices, rely on experience, and manage risk. World PMO is the expert in solving project resource challenges. We believe the right people in the right place is the catalyst to successful delivery. We have developed methods that align experience, discipline, and even personality to every facet of project requirements. Our project managers are matched to project efforts with the ability to function inside today's changing corporate cultures and communicate up to the highest level of stakeholders. The people of World PMO have the experience to recognize inefficiencies and quickly implement changes that can directly affect intended outcome. Whether you need an individual project manager or a whole team solution, World PMO has the right resources for your next project. World PMO, efficiency redefined.
You're watching The Project Show, and we continue with the interview with the Chief Information Security Officer for Cylance Security, Malcolm Harkins.
One of the things that people have asked me for a long time, I'm a former finance guy, business background, turned into a risk controls, compliance, security, privacy guy. How do you make a business case for this stuff? How do you think about what you should be choosing in terms of the controls you deploy and the solutions that you're looking for? And I've had a criteria for a long time that I used mostly in my head, but I codified it earlier this year. But a good security product creates a demonstrable and sustainable bend in the curve of risk. It's pretty basic. The problem is, you look around today, all the risks that we keep seeing, we don't have a lot of good security products. They're in a lot of organizations today. But again, good is a bend in the risk. A great security product is something that also allows me to lower my total cost of controls. I'm a former finance guy, cash is king, can't continue to throw money at this problem. And we need something that, again, can modulate and get into an equilibrium, the cost balance on these things. So good is reduction in risk. Great is risk reduction plus a total cost of control reduction. But a hero solution, something that fundamentally changes the game, something that really demonstrates something well above and beyond, is something that also lowers control friction. Controls are a drag coefficient on a business. They slow the flow of information. They get in the way of the user. They can drive, if you have too much control friction, added cost, other enterprise risks, and in some cases, just different challenges you have to deal with. For me, a hero security solution does three things. It creates a demonstrable and sustainable bend in the curve of risk. It allows me to lower my total cost of controls, and it lowers the control friction so the business can move faster.
I hope you enjoyed the interview with Malcolm Harkins, the Chief Information Security Officer for Cylance Security. Malcolm really did an excellent job, giving some of the overviews of the cybersecurity space, the A&E patterns that are happening there, as well as the regulatory and or governmental constraints that are present today. These are very important facets for you in your plan development, so make sure you understand those constraints early, because you don't want these to cause impact to your delivery plan, as it'll cost you time and money. As a practitioner, the area of cybersecurity is a rapidly expanding space, so the capability to understand how to package and deliver those solutions and understand the outcomes that CIOs are having to manage is really growing in need. It is a great area of focus to further develop your skills. With that, thank you for watching. Remember to do it with excellence, fulfill your deliverables, and deliver the outcomes.
We invite you to take the journey with Malcolm Harkins. From a high-ranking status with Intel to the ultimate focus on cybersecurity with Cylance. In his book, Managing Risk and Information Security, Protect to Enable.
The Project Show would like to say a special thanks to Cylance Security, Merger Tree, and World PMO for helping to make this program possible.